welcome back to JS Outdoors. Today I want to spend some time talking about building our USPSA or IPSC target stand. So on the screen you can see the plans that I kind of roughly made up. Feel free to pause this at any time and then you'll kind of be able to replicate these plans on your own, but these are the plans that I specifically made for this project. So right off the bat, you can see that the span in between those stabilizing boards that will be on the exterior is 18 inches, and that's from the inside of the board. And then the length of those stabilizing boards that do run along, kind of like skis along the outside of the stand, those are 22 inches in length. The other critical thing to note here is that the shoulder of this target needs to be 5 feet above the ground. And what that'll give you is that'll give you an overall target height of just over 5 foot 6 inches. So what this specific build will allow you to do is it'll allow you to use 2 pieces of wood specifically bought from any sort of hardware store, and that's all you're going to need. So for this specific build, I have one 2x2x8, which is those risers that the target actually gets stapled to, and then I have one 2x4x8 that was used and cut for the base structure. The cost of those 2x2x8 pieces of wood are $2.97 as of the time me making this video. And similarly with the 2x4x8, each piece of wood was $3.45. So with that being said, the grand total per each target stand is $6.42. Now this doesn't include the screws that were used because I did have them lying around, but you can expect to spend about $10 for a box of over 100 screws. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking my drop ends of 2x4, so the ends that weren't used in the measured lengths that we need to build the frame of this, and I'm putting them in between the 2 sections where that riser is going to sit. Now the reason I'm doing that is because when I insert that upward 2x2 riser, what that's going to do is that's going to allow for a little bit extra space, so that way if it's raining out or there's been a lot of rain and then drying in this wood and there's a little bit of deformation, or if there's some swelling because of moisture, it's still going to be fairly easy to get those uprights in and out when I am assembling and disassembling the target. So this is a pretty good representation of what you can expect by making that small pocket for those 2x2 risers. You can see that it easily fits in there and there's a little bit of wiggle room. That'll allow for that swelling and any sort of deformation that you have from those 2x2s being out in the weather and in the elements for a long period of time. One thing you'll also see me do is I've countersunk all of the areas where my screws are going to be put into the boards. This isn't a requirement. Basically, this is just me trying to make sure I get zero cracking or any sort of compromising factors from inserting these screws into the board. On some occasions, if you don't have countersunk and pre-piloted holes, then the screws could create a lot of force, therefore creating a crack. This is usually something that'll happen on smaller pieces of wood or when you're closer to the edge of a piece of wood. And really, this is what your base will look like. This is what you can expect if you follow the same plan I used. You can see that the 2x2s slide in pretty easily. There's a little bit of allowance for movement, therefore accounting for that swelling factor that might occur when you're out in the elements. These are the pre-manufactured stickers that came with the specific targets that I got. Basically, they're like, I think a 1 inch by 1 inch square. You just peel them off of that backer and then you can stick them directly to the holes in your target, so that way you can continue to use your target and not be confused on where your impacts are falling. Another option is using just general masking tape. It's not specifically as perfect as the pre-made squares, but it does get the job done. Basically, all you're looking to do is cover up your previous holes so that way you don't get confused when you're trying to figure out where your shots are placing. Because when we cut down that 8-foot piece of 2x2 in half, therefore allowing you to only use that one piece per target, what that does is that makes that piece only 4 feet, and like we talked about, the shoulder of this target needs to be at 5 feet to be within regulation. So basically what you'll do is you'll cheat up from that 2x2 a foot and then that'll give you your 5 feet for your shoulder. These targets that I got are from Amazon, and they are fairly reasonably priced. I'll be sure to put a link in this video's description so that way you can decide if that's the right target for you. Target stands don't have to be rocket science, and you don't have to follow the exact plan that I made. However, this can at least give you something to start working off of if you don't really have a good idea of what type of stand you do want to build. The biggest thing to keep in mind is that the only way that you're going to get better with your firearm is if you continue to train with it. It doesn't matter what target stand you use. It doesn't matter what firearm you have. All that matters is that you're getting training and that you're becoming competent in the skill of shooting. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to stay safe and get outdoors.